Today, I'm going to be talking to Charles Carrillo about how to find real estate deals in commercial and multifamily. So check it out. This guy really knows his stuff, and I think you're going to enjoy what he has to say. You're over in St. Petersburg, Florida, right?
That's right.
And is that where you do everything, or you're all over the nation, or you're local, or what?
I'm originally from Connecticut, so I have a small portfolio there. I moved down to Florida in 2012. And where we focus now is mainly on the Southeast. Most of our units are in Florida, but it's really the greater Southeast, the Midwest, and the Mid-South. So we really focus on landlord-friendly states first, and kind of where our team is on the ground there.
Well, that's really important, landlord-friendly states, especially when you're dealing more like a residential atmosphere, because some of the states are very difficult to evict somebody, and if not impossible if they don't want to go, and if they want to lawyer up. But we like to call them sidewalk lawyers. You know, they know more about how not to get evicted than the lawyer does. They've been doing it so long. So anyways, let's start out with your beginnings in this business. Tell us how you got started.
Yeah, so I grew up in the business. My dad had been investing in multifamily and commercial properties since the 80s, and I grew up with it. And he self-managed all his properties, 100 plus units himself. And he had a small team, but he never used a third-party property manager. So that was kind of my education growing up, was going to properties and collecting rent and dealing with contractor, listening to him deal with contractors, deal with agents, deal with brokers, and everything else that goes on with the fun world of property management and real estate investing. And a couple of years after college, I started investing. Actually, the year I graduated college, I started investing in real estate, multifamily in 2006. And I bought a 3-unit property, got a little over my head with it. And I figured out what my problems were and bought my next property a couple of years later. And I still own them today, and bought a commercial property in 2009 at pretty much the bottom of the market, which is a fantastic deal. And now what we do is we focus more on syndicating properties, so working with passive investors.
Okay. So you're kind of dealing off the OPM theory, right? Other people's money, help you grow a little faster, or
Right.
a lot faster than you could with your own money, because we're all limited in that department for the most part. I think there's that 1.00% that don't need to worry about running out of money, but the rest of us do, you know? So your first deal, you said you got in over your head. Tell me about that.
So it was a little 3-family, and it just needed a lot more rehab than I was expecting. And my dad was helping me along, but he was keeping an arm's distance. It was a really good learning experience. But when I purchased it, it needed a little bit more work per unit. And as you get going, it starts just adding up and adding up. And it took about 2 months to get it exactly where we want it. And then after little by little, we finished up a few different things afterwards, like a roof here and a couple of things that had to be done. And, we got it all done. And after that, I realized that next time going through it, I would make sure that I had a much more solid plan starting off. And my second one I did, it was a little bigger of a property. And that's probably my best property I own by myself 100% still to this day, because it's just prints money. And I kind of got into that, and it was a better property in a better area, even though it was only a few blocks from the other property. So that was a big thing too, is a better property, better area. It's amazing how real estate can change a block here and a block there, but it does. So that was one thing that was a big difference in it. And the other thing too is kind of knowing more about my costs and my renovation budget. The second one was a light rehab, but the first one was a little heavier. And if I knew those numbers better going in, it would have been a lot smoother, but
well,
it is what it is.
I want to throw this in because I just interviewed a guy who has a software for rehabs. You can go to 1000houses.com/true estimate. And it's really a pretty phenomenal software, because come to find out, things don't vary that much from one end of the country to the other. You can usually take the software, go get your contractors to give you a bid, and then take that number, put it in the back of your head, and then walk through with this software, and you'll see they're amazingly close all the time. I've done it twice, and I don't understand how it's that close, but it has been twice in a row. Nice. And he tells us how it works. So 1000houses.com/true estimate, because, there's always that bumper sticker, we make our money when we buy, right?
Yeah.
Well, yours truly added the little tagline to that bumper sticker. And now the bumper sticker reads, we make our money when we buy and we lose it in the rehab. So you got to get good at these estimates, right? Or you'll end up like Charles Carrillo and be a little bit upside down when you get done and have to work yourself out of a hole. if you don't get that number right. Because really, the only two numbers you got to get right in this business, do or die. If you don't get them right, you're screwed. Is what is the property worth after it's repaired, and what does it cost to repair it? You get those two numbers wrong, you're messed up right out of the gate, right? So got to get those in there. And then there's always that dealing with the contractors. That word begins with the word CON. So they were giving you warning right off the bat. So got to stick with that. Now, before we continue this conversation with Charles Carrillo, take a second, hit that like button, hit that share button, and subscribe. Now, let's get right back to Charles and commercial and multifamily investing. What's your favorite kind of property? You said you were doing multifamily. What is that, apartments, right? Or was it duplexes, triplexes, or what?
I started off with triplexes, and then we went into like a little bit mixed use properties. And now we're into larger multifamily stuff. And
is the natural graduation then to go just a hard commercial after that? Or is that a natural graduation, or is that just the way you chose to go?
What I like, it's commercial multifamily, so just 5+ units is kind of really what our focus is on right now. And what I like about that is just a little bit more scale. And I think that it's much easier for growing into different areas. If we were focusing on smaller properties in the beginning of the show, when I explained the target markets, it would have been a lot narrower, right? Because you can't get any scale buying a 5-unit here and a 5-unit there and stuff like that. But you'll get scale when you buy 90 units in one area, right? Or 100 units in one area or something like this, because now you have a little leverage there with what your property management company is going to charge you, your on-site manager. So that's kind of really what the assets that we're focusing on now and have been for the last several years.
So when you say commercial, you're not saying strip centers and high-rise buildings and all that, or office buildings. You're talking about bigger apartment complexes, right?
Right. Yeah. So a bank would consider 5+ units as commercial, even if it's apartments. So that's just how I kind of throw that around as commercial multifamily. Now, I do have a couple properties that are commercial because they're mixed use, right? Smaller mixed use properties. But the majority of what we're syndicating and everything like that is just regular multifamily that's larger.
Okay. Have you ever done any flipping before?
I've flipped before. It's like you were saying, the contractor, because my dad used to do a lot of flipping as well. And the most successful people I saw, they would have rentals that they rented out right in the town where I started investing in Central Connecticut. And then they also had flips to keep their people busy between their different rehabs and between their management. And the biggest problem I had when finding flips wasn't finding the properties, wasn't finding the money. It was managing the contractors, just how you were explaining. That was the biggest problem I ever had, because something simple just doesn't work like that. And it was like, constant management on people, making sure people are at the property, people are doing things. You have that for a couple months when you're renting out, when you're buying a property to rent out. But afterwards, you have to have the relationship, if you're self-managing it, with the handyman that's going to come over, and you give them a laundry list. Hey, here's 5 hours worth of work, and take care of this. And you can get that done. But when you're flipping a house, time is of the essence, obviously. You're paying all these different expenses and fees, holding costs, and you try to get that thing done within 100 days or so, right? Back on the market, sold. So that was the biggest problem I had when flipping houses. And that's something that kind of steered away from it myself.
And right now, I'd like to offer you a free ebook from taxfreefuture.com. Tax Free Future is a sponsor of many, many, many of the episodes that we have here, and for good reason. I've raised about $26 million in private money, and a lot of times I had to educate investors or lenders on how to move their 401ks and their retirement plans, their IRAs, over to a self-directed plan so that they could choose to loan it to me and make a better return with a safer collateral. And so that's what taxfreefuture.com is all about. It's about offering self-directed IRAs and 401ks and retirement funds that have checkbook control, so that the owner of the fund can actually self-direct what they want to be involved in and move at lightning speed because they have checkbook control. Check out the ebook, taxfreefuture.com. All you have to do is go to 1000houses.com/free-stuff and click on the icon that says taxfreefuture.com ebook.